What if I told you one of the most abandoned dogs in the world is also one of the most misunderstood? Tiny, cute, easy to carry around. That's what most people see when they look at a Chihuahua. But shelters across the country keep filling up with them year after year. So what happened? Why do so many people want Chihuahuas only to give them away later? And the real answer is probably not what you think.
Chihuahuas are one of the most recognizable dog breeds on Earth. They're everywhere, in movies, on social media, in celebrity handbags, and sitting on people's laps at cafes. But behind that popularity is a sad reality many people never see. Animal shelters are overwhelmed with Chihuahuas and Chihuahua mixes. Some are surrendered by families. Some are abandoned. Some were never properly cared for in the first place. And today, we're going to talk about why this keeps happening. Not to shame owners, but to understand the bigger picture. Because once you see the reasons behind it, you'll never look at these tiny dogs the same way again.
The cute dog trap. One of the biggest reasons Chihuahuas end up in shelters is because people underestimate them. A Chihuahua looks tiny and harmless. People assume they're low maintenance, easy dogs, just a lap dog. But Chihuahuas are not decorations. They are full dogs trapped inside very small bodies. And that changes everything. Imagine adopting a dog expecting a stuffed animal, but getting a fearless, stubborn, emotional little creature with endless opinions. That's what surprises many owners. Chihuahuas are extremely alert. They bond deeply. They get jealous, protective, anxious, territorial. And if they're not trained properly, those traits can become difficult very quickly. A lot of people buy Chihuahuas because they're small enough to carry, but small does not mean simple. In fact, many trainers say tiny dogs are often harder to manage because owners don't take training seriously. If a Great Dane growls at strangers, people panic. If a Chihuahua does it, people laugh. That's the problem. The behavior gets ignored until it becomes a serious issue. And eventually, some owners decide they can't handle the dog anymore.
Backyard breeding changed everything. Another major reason shelters are flooded with Chihuahuas is overbreeding. Chihuahuas became incredibly trendy for years. Celebrities carried them everywhere. Movies made them famous. Suddenly, everyone wanted one. And whenever demand explodes, bad breeding follows. Backyard breeders realized Chihuahuas were cheap to breed and easy to sell. Some people bred them without understanding genetics, health, or temperament. Others bred them purely for profit. The result? Thousands and thousands of puppies entering the world every year, far more than responsible homes available for them. And many of those puppies were never socialized correctly. Some developed fear issues, aggression, separation anxiety, health problems. By the time owners realized the dog needed serious care and patience, many gave up. What makes it even sadder is how quickly Chihuahuas reproduce compared to how long they live. A Chihuahua can live 15 years or more. That means shelters often care for these dogs for very long periods because adopters hesitate to commit, especially older dogs. And there's something else people rarely talk about. A lot of Chihuahua mixes don't even look like Chihuahuas anymore. So shelters end up with countless small mixed dogs that people overlook completely.
The aggression myth. Now, here's where things get interesting. People often say Chihuahuas are mean, aggressive, yappy, bad with people. But the truth is more complicated. Many Chihuahuas are not naturally aggressive. They're defensive. There's a huge difference. Think about life from their perspective. Everything around them is gigantic. Hands grab them constantly. Kids chase them. Strangers invade their space. Large dogs tower over them. And many owners ignore their boundaries because they're just little dogs. Over time, some Chihuahuas learn one thing. If I bark first, people back away.
So barking becomes survival. Fear becomes attitude. And eventually, people label them bad dogs. This creates a terrible cycle. The dog becomes harder to adopt. Shelters struggle to place them. And some spend years waiting for a second chance. What's heartbreaking is that many Chihuahuas completely transform once they feel safe. Some become incredibly loyal, gentle, funny, even clingy in the sweetest way possible. But people often never stay long enough to see that side of them.
People want puppies, not commitment.
There's another uncomfortable truth behind this problem. A lot of people love the idea of a Chihuahua puppy, but not the responsibility that comes with the adult dog. Puppies are tiny, playful, and adorable. But then reality arrives. House training accidents, barking, chewing, vet bills, anxiety, anxiety, attention needs. And because Chihuahuas live so long, the commitment is enormous. This isn't a temporary cute phase. This can be a 15-year relationship, sometimes longer. Life changes too. People move, have kids, start new jobs, lose time, lose patience. And unfortunately, small dogs are often treated as more disposable than larger breeds. Some owners think it's just a tiny dog, but to the Chihuahua, that person was their entire world. That's the part people forget.
If you've ever owned a Chihuahua, I'm curious, did people misunderstand your dog because of the breed stereotype? Let me know in the comments. And if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, because we talk about the real side of Chihuahua behavior that most people never hear about. And wait until you hear the next reason shelters struggle with these dogs, because it has almost nothing to do with the dogs themselves. Shelters face an invisible challenge. Here's something many people don't realize. Large dogs often get more attention in shelters, especially breeds seen as heroic, athletic, or adventurous. Meanwhile, Chihuahuas are sometimes ignored completely. Why? Because people assume they're all the same, tiny barking lap dogs. But shelters know every Chihuahua is different. Some are shy, some are playful, some are deeply affectionate, some are terrified because they've been abandoned multiple times. And sadly, stress hits Chihuahuas very hard. Shelter environments are loud, chaotic, full of unfamiliar smells and barking. For a sensitive Chihuahua, that can feel overwhelming. A frightened Chihuahua may hide, shake, growl, or bark nonstop. Potential adopters walk past and think that dog is aggressive, but often the dog is simply scared. The cruel irony, the dogs who need patience the most are often the least likely to get adopted quickly.
The real problem isn't the Chihuahua. Here's the deeper truth behind everything. The Chihuahua problem is actually a people problem. People project unrealistic expectations onto tiny dogs. They skip training because the dog is small. They ignore fear signals because the dog looks cute. They buy impulsively instead of researching the breed. And society treats small dog behavior differently from large dog behavior. A poorly trained Labrador is seen as a problem to solve. A poorly trained Chihuahua becomes a joke online. That difference matters more than people realize, because dogs respond to how humans treat them, and Chihuahuas are incredibly emotionally reactive dogs. When treated with patience, structure, and respect, many become amazing companions. Some are fiercely loyal to one person for life. Others become surprisingly social and affectionate. And despite all the stereotypes, many Chihuahua owners will tell you the same thing. Once a Chihuahua trusts you, the bond feels incredibly deep. That's why so many people who adopt one Chihuahua eventually adopt another, not because they're perfect, but because they're unforgettable.
So why are there so many Chihuahuas in shelters? Because they were overbred, misunderstood, undertrained, bought impulsively, and too often treated like accessories instead of living animals. But the story doesn't end there. Every year, thousands of Chihuahuas are adopted into loving homes where people finally understand them. And when that happens, these tiny dogs often become some of the most loyal companions a person could ask for. Sometimes, all a Chihuahua really needs is someone willing to see past the stereotypes.
The next time you see a Chihuahua barking, shaking, or acting defensive, try to remember, you may not be looking at a bad dog. You may be looking at a scared one. Thanks for watching. And if you love Chihuahuas or want to learn more about their real behavior, subscribe and stick around, because these tiny dogs have much bigger stories than most people realize.
I also have a newsletter where I share more Chihuahua stories, behavior insights, and tips for owners and dog lovers. So check that out if you want even more content between videos, because these tiny dogs have much bigger stories than most people realize.